The micro moment of choice. It's something I learned about in my 30s and 40s that would have changed my life had I known about it in my earlier years. It is often that when someone provokes you, you might have an instant response back, right? In life, somebody's rude to you, you're rude back. Somebody gets aggressive with you, you get aggressive back, right? Trigger response. But I've learned through therapy and breakdowns of relationships and shit. Like I've learned the hard way, the real road, that your reactions to triggers, to triggering events and things is actually in your control. It's not this instantaneous thing. And so one of the best examples that I can give when I learned this and started applying this was a situation where I was out I was shopping, I was with my niece, and I had this cashier become incredibly just unprovoked rude to me, just over the top sighing, whatever it was. And I was fucking triggered. I was just like, who the fuck is this bitch? Why is she talking to me? Like, this is my inner voice speaking. Like, why is she talking to me like this? Like, blah, 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 blah. And I realized that if I engaged with it, if I had my instinctual response, which is to be like, who do you think you're talking to? I would then engage and take on an energy, this anger energy, a vibration of anger, and then I would ruminate on it. I'd probably be having dinner a few hours later. Remember that fucking cashier? And it would be something that I carried with me. And that's just how I went through life a lot, was collecting, accumulating what I call these hot potatoes of negative energy. Like somebody provokes me, I get mad, I yell, and then I'm still thinking about it 6 hours later, sometimes 6 days later. And that's my burden to carry. And so when in that moment when that cashier was being really rude to me, I remember realizing if I engage with this, I know what that's going to look like. I am going to be angry. I'm going to carry this negative energy. And if I choose kindness, I don't care what happens after I pay and leave the store, right? Like that person's not my business anymore. But at least then she won't be part of my mental health at that point either. It'll be just like something, oh, that was weird, and move on with my life. And that's what I did. And I chose kindness, and not inauthentic, not like snarky kindness, just kindness, just not responding with the response that I would normally. And I left, and I remember feeling much more in control of my own mental health from that day forward. Because when I realized just because you're thrown a ball doesn't mean you throw it back. Sometimes you can grab the ball, touch the ball, and put the ball down and walk away. And when you know that, when you realize that there is this micro opportunity, this micro moment of choice, even if it doesn't feel like the right choice in the right moment, like you just want to get vengeance, you want to bite back, you want to, as long as you have choice, you can choose the powerful option for yourself, the best outcome for yourself. And what's interesting about this lesson is that I also had a recent example where I found myself in a moment of maybe emotional trigger, and I felt that I had options in front of me of how I was going to handle it, how I was going to react, how was I going to process. And I had this like almost like immature, childish, like stupid anger fantasy of making a mess out of something and writing off the experience. Like it just being like, well, fuck this then, right? And then I remember I thought, well, you know what? Now that I know it's a choice, I can choose to be positive. I can choose to be grateful of what is working, what is positive, instead of focusing on what isn't. And in a recent example, this also changed me, and I had a much better outcome. And mental health wise, the impact is immense. And so I want you to understand that you do have the power to choose, and your choices is your power, because you could choose what's best for you. And sometimes that does not include being rude to the cashier back. Sometimes it includes, in an anger driving situation. I know there's a lot of road rage situations out there. Sometimes the best thing you can do is not respond back in the way that you instinctively want to, for your own best good, right? So this is a recent thought I wanted to share on my Live Unapologetically channel. If you know me, I'm TorontoUnicorn. I've got like 6 YouTube channels, maybe not, maybe like I definitely have 6 podcasts, but like YouTube channels, maybe like 3 or 4. But they all serve a different purpose. And this one is about things that are just authentic, living your best, most authentic life, little tips and tricks I've learned along the way to basically, buffer off some of the stresses, learn how to be resilient and adapt, and anything I've learned of value along the way. I also have one of my completed podcasts, Life Hack Your Breakup, is a mini series podcast. If you're going through the shitty time of freshly dumped or like freshly like on the market, and you don't know how to deal with like the intense overwhelm in your nervous system, like I actually have a 2 hour end to end, like you can listen to these tips on how to like basically life hack your coping so that it's not as bad. So I'm also going to be doing more live streams on this channel, as well as you might not know this, but this is also a podcast. I have a Live Unapologetically podcast on Spotify, and so you can get me there or YouTube. But I'm going to be doing more hangouts on this channel, I think, instead of just like content that's about here's some good tips and tricks. I might just actually go live or like hang out for half an hour once in a while and like do something interesting, like a adult coloring book, and chit chat. So there's going to be a new energy coming through this channel, and I hope that you stick around. I hope you engage. I would love it if you'd hit the like button and hit subscribe just so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks, everybody.